you don't have to do an hour. You can do 5-10 minutes.
Yes.
And just of something and figure out what it is that you love.
Hey, sweet mama. Welcome back to another episode of Mama Mindset. I'm your host and creator, Amy Cawthron. Thank you so much for joining me today. And before I introduce this incredible guest, I just wanted to take a minute and let you know, I hope that you, from the bottom of my heart, I hope that you had a beautiful Christmas with your family. And if you are feeling the letdown of the holidays right now, I really just wanted to let you know that that is absolutely okay. There are so many women, so many of us as moms, especially, who pour out into others this holiday season that are feeling that letdown. And then from there, we are now having to pivot and see on social media all of the pressures of New Year's and New Year's resolutions, and the fact that we need to be making changes and setting goals. And in Monday's episode, I talked about squashing this idea of resolutions, but the fact that it is okay to have goals. So this conversation that I wanted to have today, I brought on a special guest. She's my wonderful special friend. Her name is Tawnya Feldman, and we had an incredible conversation on self-care. What is self-care? What does that mean for you? The fact that self-care for me might look different than what it looks like for Tawnya. She gives us some tips and tricks on what self-care is for her and how we can advocate for ourselves for that self-care. We talk about establishing evening routines in order to set us up for success in the mornings, to give us space for these pockets of time for self-care. I think we get pressured so much and it gets shoved down our throats, this idea of taking care of ourselves and self-care. But how are we supposed to do that when we're stay-at-home moms that never have a moment to ourselves? We might, heavy on the might, have tiny pockets of time in our day, 5, 10, 15 minutes where we get time for ourselves. You might get lucky and the kids might be napping, but I'm a big advocate. And when the kids are young, sometimes that self-care is napping when the kids are napping. But if you have things that you want to be working towards, if you have some goals that you really want to be accomplishing this year, I think that's amazing. How are you going to accomplish those goals? When are you going to carve out time to do that? So setting yourself up for a morning routine that gives you that chunk of time, that pocket of time to focus on your goals, to focus on your self-care, and to focus on yourself is incredibly, incredibly important. I really feel, and we talk about that in this episode, that a nighttime routine is just as important as a morning routine. And the reason why I'm such an advocate for morning routines is because that is sometimes the only opportunity we will get in an entire day to work on ourselves and to pour into ourselves in order to pour into our children, our families, and anybody else that's around us. So Tawnya has worked in skincare for 25 years, but she's also coming to us with this incredible background of more of a masculine-based industry. She worked in the agriculture industry and worked in agriculture businesses for a long time. And she was establishing this side business as a mompreneur back before mompreneur was even a term, when she was raising her daughter. And she established this incredible business. And she's brought to the table all of her experience and all of her expertise to give us some practical tips on skincare takeaways and just times when we can focus on that self-care. Washing your face. When is the best time to do that as a busy mom? Do we need to be wearing a whole bunch of makeup? If you want to, that's great. If not, that's okay too. She works with her clients to really establish skincare routines, beauty routines, and makeup products that align with them, that align with their lives and align with their values. So we talk about it all. I share some things that we've gone through even just in the last week. We talked about, I'm not just total transparency. We talked about taking television away from the kids. Well, I talked about that. And I'll tell you in the episode, how I got to that point in taking television away from the kids literally tonight. Like I literally took that away today because of self-awareness and seeing what we needed and realizing that it wasn't serving us. And it all still does, I promise you, tie into this conversation of nighttime routines, morning routines, and establishing these pockets of time to focus on self-care, which then allows us to work on some of the goals that we want to work on going into the new year. So grab a cozy beverage and join myself and my amazing friend Tawnya in this conversational journey. Hi, Tawnya. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. So I'll take just a moment and introduce myself. I am Tawnya Feldman with Tawnya Feldman Splash Beauty with True Aura. And that is a microbiome clean skincare line. I've actually been in the skincare business for 25 years with different companies. True Aura is a new company. And then I also sold heavy equipment at different times, worked for a vet at different times, and I have a daughter that's 16. So I have been where you ladies are as a stay-at-home mom, because I was a stay-at-home mom with a home-based business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you were a mompreneur before mompreneur term was even like a thing.
Yes. And some of my friends that were in my old business with me they call themselves nanapreneurs because they're grandmothers now.
Oh, I love that so much. That's a new term. I haven't heard that. I love that so much. And so one of the things that I absolutely love about you and why I wanted you to come on today is you've been in the beauty skincare business for 25 years, right? Is that right? Yes. 25 years.
Yes. Not solid the whole time, not only that, but
right.
In and among other businesses. Yes.
Right. But you also have this incredible background where you've worked in a very masculine industry and you can talk shop better than any female I know, which is incredibly inspiring. And here you are talking shop. You've been in agriculture, you've been in the farming business when you were very young too, as a kid growing up. And now you've kind of built this business and this career out of a beauty line and skincare. And so it's very like, yin
and yang.
Yes. And I love it, but you provide this incredible balance. And one of the things that I love that you bring to your clients is a realistic beauty routine. If you're a female that wants to wear a lot of makeup, all right, let's talk about that. If you're a female that's like, you know what, I just want something that's simple and quick, but I want to look a little bit put together. You're like, all right, let's talk about that. So I love that you can bring that to the table. I mean, I find it incredibly helpful.
Thank you. Yes, my focus is a skincare and makeup routine that fits you and that is coincides and works well with your busy life while you're having your adventures and living your life, and then also looking good while you're at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And sometimes that means washing your face in a creek on a camping trip, because you just know that things will go better if your skin stays in good shape when you get back to your regular week,
Yes. So I love all the experience you brought to the table with very well-rounded background in that standpoint. And so what I want to talk about today in this conversation right before New Year's is something that you have always inspired me in, and it's establishing morning routines and nighttime routines. And you're such an advocate for women's self-care routines and self-care opportunities. And you absolutely by example, and you don't overcomplicate it. It doesn't have to be this like great, big, elaborate thing. So I want to hear, maybe we'll start with when you were a young mom, when you had Savannah, and let's talk about like what you did for self-care at that time. And actually, like one of the things that I want to mention really quick, I'm going to just go off on a tangent, is that as we're having this conversation and you give examples of your self-care routine, and I'll dive into like what I do for self-care. I want everybody to know that self-care is very individual. What I consider self-care and personal. What you consider, yes, very personal. Mm-hmm. It just depends on what aligns with your values and what feels good. I genuinely, self-care is just supposed to be what feels good and what helps you in your day to day. We talked about just before we started recording, I was saying like a bath for me is like my utmost act of self-care. It resets my mindset. I just absolutely love
And
it.
my version of that is sitting in the hot tub. So I sit in the
Yes.
hot tub outdoors and I watch the river flow by.
Yes. So some people would say, oh my gosh, a bath is just like the basic need, right? It's what you need to do. But I don't use it that way. I don't use it necessarily as cleansing my body as something that I need to do. I use it as something that I want to do. So let's talk about what you think self-care is, first of all, and then let's dive into like what kind of you did.
Okay. Yes. And I want to start by saying, oftentimes people will overextend themselves. And right now, just during the holidays and post-holiday, you probably have overextended yourself. And so rather than beat yourself up about that, you need to just go, okay, now I'm going to shift and I'm going to get back centered and do the things I need to do to take care of myself. So I was not ever a young mom because I had trouble having children. And finally, when I was 39 and some, became pregnant with Savannah and had a healthy baby at 39, almost 40. And I had this rather booming business with several hundred consultants that worked with me and several hundred clients. And so juggling when Savannah was a newborn, juggling having her home with me for that first year and the business and all of that was a bit overwhelming. And so I can help you with some things that I did well and some things I didn't do well. Walking is always my self-care exercise sort of thing that I do. And I did keep doing that, maybe not. And so I would put her in the stroller. That was one of the most important things, was to have a good walking stroller. And so while she was tiny, that was my exercise. And sometimes I would do like lunges or whatever along with that. So that was self-care. Always doing my skincare was self-care. Drinking water was super important. Where I fell down was sleep. And when I don't sleep well enough, I eat too much of the wrong foods because my blood sugar, I have to manage it, and it goes too low for me. And so that was probably my hardest thing, was not getting enough sleep. And I would try to sneak in doing stuff late in the day when that's not my best time of the day. And so the way you advocate, and I do too now, to get to bed early so that you can get up early and get that good solid sleep is huge to me. So that sleep is probably the first most important thing.
I think sometimes what we consider self-care, or what I hear from a lot of people for self-care, is, and they don't even really consider it self-care, but it's more of like, I deserve to sit in bed and binge watch Netflix, and then that, or scroll or whatever, like, I've had such a long day, I'm just going to lay in bed, or I'm going to sit on the couch. And then it's like 11 o'clock at night and you're still just watching television, or you're still scrolling through your phone. And it's like, that's not self-care. It's incredibly the opposite. And so knowing that sleep, although it seems boring, I don't know if that's even the right way, but you're like, I finally get a moment to myself and in peace and then quiet. And I know so badly that you want to be awake for that and feel adult with maybe a glass of wine and eating the potato chips and just watching TV and doing all the things that you want to freaking do that you can't when the kids are around. I get that. But it doesn't set you up for success the next day. And so as we go into New Year's, and people are talking about goals and what they want to accomplish and resolutions, I just want women to take some time to make sure that they have space to do the things and accomplish the goals that they're setting out to do, which
And a
is
good,
establishing a good nighttime routine.
right. And
Sorry,
a
go
good
ahead.
way to do that so I have two tips in that area. One
Mhm.
is to kind of consider your actions and say, is this in keeping with where I want to be going?
Mhm.
And then the other is, if you, being a stay-at-home mom can be very isolating sometimes, or
Mhm.
isolated sometimes. And so maybe setting a timer for your scroll time, or
Mhm.
setting a timer for whatever Netflix, but be intentional and make sure it's something that you want to do, not that you just ended up doing it because you didn't have the self-control to stop yourself.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So,
And that I think being intentional is probably the biggest gift you can give yourself.
yes. So I was talking to Brad a little bit about this before we started to have this conversation, and just trying to get like my mind wrapped around exactly what I want to articulate to women in self-care, because there's so much self-care talk out there. And one of the things that an example that I was giving him is, I really feel, and again, this, not everybody's going to agree with this, but I feel like self-care, and I'm talking about our nighttime routine right now. Self-care in the evenings for me looks like making sure that all of the dishes are done and the kitchen counters are cleaned off and the house is picked up. And it takes us 15 minutes. We have a good routine established, and the kids help, before they go to bed on occasion.
Which is crucial.
Crucial. Yes. So that is an act of self-care, because from there, I can go into my morning the next day when I wake up fresh, clear-headed, no clutter, no chaos. I can go right to my sink and fill up my jug of water. I'm not moving dishes out of the way to fill up my water bottle, because that's a variable that comes between you and your goal. My goal is to drink a gallon of water during the day. But if I have to move dishes out of the sink to fill up my jug of water first thing in the morning, that's
So
that's a detriment to my active self-care.
and I have a tip for people along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
These water jugs, and this is actually the one I put sparkling water in, but I have one that has a button on it,
Mm-hmm.
so it can be tipped over, and it doesn't release water unless I push the button.
Mm-hmm.
And I started taking that to bed with me because I was nursing, and so I'd wake up in the night, and when I was nursing, I would be thirsty.
Mm-hmm.
So I started taking that to bed with me and drinking it while I was awake nursing Savannah, and then I'd put her back in her little carrier and go back to sleep. But
Mm-hmm.
I would have gotten 6 or 8 ounces of water on board. And so now, as I'm a menopausal mama, I get a hot flash in the middle of the night. So then I do the same thing, and it cools down the hot flash. And then you've gotten, several ounces of the water that you're trying to drink for the day,
Mm-hmm.
taken on board during the night.
Mm-hmm. So
So
when did you start kind of establishing some of these routines? Was this before you had Savannah, or did you notice that like self-care and that kind of like those kinds of acts in the routines at night and in the morning were important?
some things that are self-care I established when I was long before Savannah, because I traveled a lot for work. And so I would get up and walk early in the morning. I'd get up, get my clothes on, just workout clothes, drink a bunch of water, and go for a 20-minute walk, because I was either flying or driving and sitting in meetings, and I needed to get myself moving. So that started way back when, right after college. And then, but the water tip started because I was thirsty when I was nursing.
Mm-hmm.
And I just have always done it ever since.
Mm-hmm. And Tawnya, one of the things that I love about you is you're also always working on and I'm a huge advocate for this on the podcast too, and for moms, is personal development. You're always working towards something, or reading a book, or I mean, if I mention a book, you're like, oh, I read that twice, or, I mean, I just love it. I absolutely love that, because it's just really inspiring for me. But I think carving out time to do that, is really a struggle for a lot of moms, which is why I'm such a proponent of establishing an early morning routine and a solid, like a good intentional evening routine.
Right. And one of my self-care things, and this started in a long time ago, in the time when big hair bands were going. So I won't name a year, but long time ago, I quit watching television. And so I only watch television when I don't actually have television at my house. So I only watch television when it's an event like the Super Bowl, or I'm in a motel or a hotel and we want to watch, Big Bang Theory or something, as a family. So that helps. And the reason I do it is because it makes my brain feel a little ADD. And so scrolling on my phone makes me feel the same. So I give myself like a 5-minute timeline, and I really try to connect with people, and comment and connect with friends rather than just scroll. So that kind of started that self-care, I guess, the lack of television.
That's so interesting. Okay. I'm just going to go on a mom tangent talk, because before we were talking, I didn't know that about you. Actually, I didn't know that you did that. So before we started recording, I told you I was just like a couple of minutes late. Mom life, not an excuse at all, but I had to have a parenting conversation with Brad, because the girls are in full Christmas letdown mode. Like it's been a struggle. And I said, that's it. We're done with television, because it makes them so weird. It makes them, their attitudes, their brain, like all of it. I just see it because, I mean, how we are, we really limit screen time and television. And so whenever you've come to visit, it's like a special treat for them to have a show on or something, so we can have a conversation. But I said, and it's fine. We've done all the Christmas movies. We've had a lot of downtime. And today I just realized every 15 minutes they were asking me if they could watch a show. And I was like, what is going on? Well, it's because we've been watching TV. And I think even as adults, we do the same thing to ourselves. Like, I can't wait to get off work so I could go sit down and watch TV.
And what I find is it's the commercials that make me crazy. So I like to schedule a show, like, for example, the movie Mamma Mia. Savannah had the whole thing memorized, and I would take time out of, so if I needed her to be entertained, she would watch that, and I'd come in for 10 minutes and sing and dance along with her, and at my favorite parts, and then I'd go back to work. So, I mean, I think like anything, it's the whole thing about being intentional, choosing what you want.
Yeah. And we were very intentional with allowing Christmas movies and just, having that rest time. And then I knew, okay, it's time to take a step back, and we're done with that for a little while, for a couple of days. I was like, nope, we're not going to have the TV on. We have these beautiful crafts and activities that we got. You have new toys for Christmas. And it's amazing to me how they can, I know this is like a whole side tangent kind of off topic, but I think it's amazing how the kids can get these toys or these projects or whatever. And then a couple of days after Christmas, it's like that overwhelm of all the letdown, and then they still don't know what to do with all of it. So they're still essentially bored. And as a mom, you're pulling your hair out because you're like, you have an entire tote full of new items to explore and play with or whatever. What is going on? And so just looking at it, even as adults, like looking at it and being like, is this serving us? Is this serving me? Is this really what I want to be doing in the evenings? And if don't get me wrong, if girlfriend, you have done the dishes and you've picked up the house and you've done, a couple of self-care routines or self-care practices, and you want to sit down and you want to watch The Big Bang Theory or whatever show it is you want to watch, go for it. I am not saying that you shouldn't do that, but I think, what we're talking about is balance and intentionality behind it. Is it
Choosing
yours?
how you spend your time?
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
So to that end, that brought up a couple of ideas that I thought maybe it would be nice to share. A bunch of my clients at different times would say, oh, I check in with them. How you doing with your skincare? And they're like, well, I don't need any yet. And I'm like, really? You must not be using it, because it would be gone by now.
Right.
Well, I don't use it in the evening. I go to bed and I just I'm too lazy to use it. So what I got onto with a bunch of them was, so whatever time you get home or whatever time you kind of get done with your day, wash your face then. And so some of the girls, it was, 4:30 in the afternoon or 5:30 in the afternoon, but wash your face then. It will wake you up and refresh you. Your skincare is done. So then when you get on with your evening, you can just fall into bed and you've done your skincare. So
I love that. And, one of the things that I started doing too, I'll just add to that kind of what I've done instead of waiting until like I'm too tired to do it and fall into bed, is I do it when I give the kids a bath. And so while they're taking a bath and they're kind of playing, I'm taking off my mascara and I'm, taking off my lipstick or whatever. If I have it on that day, which when I'm home, I don't wear a lot of makeup. And so, but I'll wash my face, or one of my girlfriends, this isn't necessarily like self-care per se, but one of my girlfriends gave me a tip and I use it all the time now. Cause I was like, I never feel like I can have time to clean my bathroom. She's like, I just keep Clorox wipes in the bottom drawer. And whenever the kids take a bath, I just wipe down the sinks and I wipe down the toilets, and that's I don't like to talk about multitasking. It's being very intentional with that time, but it's like, okay, the kids are fine. Like they're in the bath, you can see them. So instead of just sitting there scrolling on your phone while you're
laugh at their funny jokes,
yes,
laugh at their antics and get something done. Sure. Yeah.
So that's when I take off my makeup. I'll just say too, self-care routines. I know maybe this isn't like it always in line with it, but we're in line with it right now, but I'm a really big advocate on a midday reset. So for self-care. So like, if I haven't had my shower in the morning, or I just feel like the day is just shit, it's just like so frustrating and I can't do anything, I will put a show on for the kids, or I'll set them up with a project, or when they take a nap, excuse me, and I will take my shower, even if it's 4:00, I'll take a shower. And the kids are a little bit older. So I do know like at 7 and 5, it is a little bit easier for me. And if Lily's napping, I know that is a little bit easier, but even if you have a baby, you can put the baby in the bouncy in the bathroom with you, and you can take a shower and you can put on a little bit of makeup, even if it's 4:00 in the afternoon, to just feel like you're put together, put on a couple of pairs of clothes. So, and I don't do it for Brad, I do it for me. So I feel put together and ready for when he comes home, and we can then transition into our evening routine. I have done that multiple times, and it's not because I want him to like see me looking good. It's because it makes me feel better. It makes me feel more put together after I've had just an absolute crap day. I know he's coming home, so I have to pivot, shift, and, pull it together, Amy. But I love that. I love your tip on your makeup removing routine or washing your face. I mean, it can happen. It doesn't have to happen right before you go to bed when you're the most tired. So what else do you think helps us prepare for our morning routines at night? What do you do at night to help you get ready for the morning?
So one of the pieces is eating dinner early enough that I can wind down soon enough at night. Another thing is, and I think that's with small children, especially, that's valuable because when they're fueled well, then they're nicer, even if they're tired.
Yes.
I like to do kind of an accountability thing of, all right, it's 8:30. I need to be in bed within the next half hour because I like to get up around 5:30. So that's part of it. And so I'm breaking that tonight. Obviously, I'm being mindful about it because I want to be on here with you. But normally that's my schedule. So normally I will try to be in the hot tub at 8, out by 8:20, 8:30, sometime in there, and then rinse off, skincare done. And I do about 5 minutes of yoga. Because I kind of have some back and shoulder stuff. And so about 15 years ago, I got onto this and I just do downward dog, cat and cow, maybe 20 seconds of the plank, just enough to kind of some twists, to kind of energize and relax my spine and loosen me up. And then I go to bed. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you've established a routine that is very intentional for you and feels good for you. One of the things that Brad was talking about, I think, that we struggle with sometimes as moms or women, and even what he was talking about, I was like, well, what do you do in the evenings and like to help you? One of the things is we don't have all of our laundry put away right now. Total transparency. We don't have all of our laundry put away right now because we've been so busy with Christmas activities and the holidays. And it's probably the worst that it's been in months, honestly. And so yes. And so he's like, I notice that if I have to go to the laundry and dig out clean socks to wear, then that's 5 minutes that I'm trying to find socks. That sets me 5 minutes back from going out to the shop and getting my workout in, which is then it spirals out of control, and that cascades into him leaving 5 minutes late, versus like the times that he's most successful, and me too, the times that I'm most successful is when I set out my workout clothes at night. I have my gallon of water right beside me. I have my shoes right beside the bed, so I have to practically trip over them if I'm going to go for a walk. I set those things up. I have the dishes done at night so that the sink is clean. And then everything is ready. All of the variables that come between myself and my goal, or him and his goals, for example, are eliminated. Like there's no variables unless some random life situation happens. And then we can go into our morning routines completely prepared. So I think, we talk a lot about morning routines, and you have an amazing morning routine and you're super intentional about it. But I do think sometimes that we forget that the things that you do in the evenings, like going to bed early, not over drinking and drinking your water, like all those things play into your morning routine.
Exactly. And it's that setting the time so that you get there in the morning. And then the other thing, and it's funny how things develop, because so when Savannah was 0 to 1, I did pretty well. From 1 to 2, epic fail. And I gained a bunch of weight, and I just was never feeling like I had time for myself. And so then after that is when I started the early morning walk. And then I got a puppy at that time frame. And so I had to get the puppy out, and the puppy would actually, border collie, so would herd me out the door. So my alarm would go off and I'd go get my shoes and my jacket on, brush my teeth, and then let the puppy out of the kennel, and off we go out the door. And so that energy and that habit formed then. And you're exactly right. Having your shoes and your socks arranged, having your clothes to pull on right when you pop out of bed is magic.
I've even slept in my yoga clothes when I was really struggling to get up in the mornings and really trying to, seriously, I am totally transparent. Like there was a point where it was like, if I have to put my yoga pants on, like, I don't even want to go through that.
That's going to be a stopper. Yeah.
Yes.
So you're being mindful. You're going, okay, I can't, I need to avoid that stopper. So here's how I'm going to do it.
Yes. I would sleep in my workout clothes. And the beautiful thing is, if you're walking at home or doing yoga at home or whatever workout routine, like you don't have to look pretty. You could wear your pajamas during your workout, which I absolutely love, but it's like, this is what I'm going to do my workout in. I'm just going to wear it to bed, and I would go from there. So,
and I think the other key there is finding something that you love to do. So for me, walking is something my grandmother did when we were tiny. She walked with us. And so it's always been my thing. And then the stretches just helped me feel better. And so, you don't have to do an hour. You can do 5-10 minutes.
Yes.
And just of something and figure out what it is that you love.
Yes. Yes. I've had people message me, how did you get into yoga? I just don't love it. I'm like, then it's not your thing, and that's okay. I talked to people that absolutely love running. I do not love running. 4 knee surgeries. I'm not going to be a runner. That's just what it is. Like, I don't have the intention of that. But I will
say, I want to interject, just cat and cow and downward dog. If you could just do those 2 stretches for less than a minute, that the hamstring, that keeps you young. That hamstring stretch that you get, it does keep you young. And so if you're a runner, you even need it more.
Yes. Yes. I completely agree with you. I'll interject and agree with you that I always thought that I wasn't a yoga person because I always did sports. I've talked about that. Like, I've always been high energy sports, go, 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 push, push, push. And so when it's like, I have to breathe and slow down and sit here, just sit in the same pose. I'm like,
this isn't productive.
I can't do exactly. I'm like, this is not productive. Yes. And what you find is actually that it's more productive. And I needed the reset. I needed to slow down. I needed the breath. I needed to work my body, my mind, and my soul, like all at the same time. And that's where I was like, I need yoga, and I'm pushing against it.
If somebody doesn't love it and is fighting it, just a couple stretches because I collect tension right here, and lots of women do.
Yep.
And so discovering that one where you put your feet up the wall and you put your hands over your head and you just lay there with your feet up the wall and you flex your toes, that releases my back. Or even just laying on a mat on the floor or laying on your carpet with your feet in the air, because it releases some things to have your back in neutral on the floor. Keep it simple.
Yes. I love that you do your walk routine too. You've done that ever since I've known you, and I think it's incredibly inspiring. Hey, sweet mama, I just wanted to take a second and talk to you about an incredible opportunity that you have to change your life. I put together a challenge for all of my sweet mama friends called the Mama Mindset Reset Challenge, #MMR Challenge. The point of this challenge is for you to hold yourself accountable to change your life. If you're one of those women out there right now struggling with the January pressure of needing to have a New Year's goal and you're not sure where to start, you're not sure where to improve, but you want to make a change, my challenge is absolutely 100% for you. You can find all of the information on my website at amycawthorne.com. Please let me know when you get started on this challenge. It's absolutely free. There's no sign up. There's no start date. You can start today, which I really encourage you to just dive in, start today. There's 3 phases to this challenge. The challenge builds on itself. So it gives you an opportunity to start small, then build up, and then build up more. This challenge will give you the best year that you've ever had as a mother. It resets your mindset. And the amazing thing about this challenge is it's absolutely free. Absolutely free. The only thing that I ask from you is that you tag me when you get started. Let me know how it's going, and please stay in touch with me. So again, it's called the Mama Mindset Reset Challenge, #MMR Challenge. You can find all of the information on my website at amycawthorne.com. With that being said, let's get back to the show. I've had a couple of women on. Libby Delana, I had her on not too long ago talking about her walking routine, and she has walked every single day for 10 years. She hasn't missed a day, and it's incredible. And she has zero expectations for herself. And, you know, I want to add that I think it's a really important point is that don't have any don't have those unrealistic expectations for yourself when it comes to your nighttime routine and your morning routine. Like maybe what you can get in is 15 minutes, like you were saying, maybe just a couple of yoga stretches is all you need for that day, but don't have these unrealistic expectations because of what somebody else is doing. And Libby is a huge advocate for that. You know, she walks every single day and sometimes she'll get in like 6, 7, 8 miles in a day. You know, I mean, she'll walk for a couple of hours, but she's the first to say, like, I am in a different season of life. I don't have small children at home.
Sure.
So that 10, 15 minutes of fresh air, taking the dog out for a walk. And if you have small kids at home and if they're all still sleeping, you're not going to be able to go on a 2-mile walk down the road, but walking around the house, even if it's like with your tea or your coffee, just breathing in that fresh air, getting grounded for the day. I'm also a huge advocate of getting grounded. Take off your shoes, walk barefoot for a little bit in the yard, but you don't have to have these monumental expectations.
Right. And that brings to mind a couple of other things that Savannah and I did when she was young. So at times, I'm not kidding you, I'd pick her up from because I did have her at daycare for maybe 3 or 4 hours a day, usually from like 11 until 3 or 4, depending on how things worked out. And so, cause she liked to go have lunch with the kids. And so anyway, there would be times when she hadn't taken a nap for whatever reason. And she would be arching her back, screaming as I was buckling her into her stroller in the afternoon, and I'd get in half-hour walk. And, you know, in 2 minutes she would crash, of course. And then she'd get a nice little nap and I'd get a nice little walk and then go on with that. So then another thing that we did, which is exercise related, but it was so much fun, is we would have dance parties. And in the summer it was outside we'd dance to the moon outside. And that was amazing and energizing. And strangely enough, we'd do that right before she went to bed. Then we'd go, you know, get her pottied and watered up and into bed, and she would just crash. And so would I.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I love that. The girls love doing dance parties in the kitchen with Brad. There's actually a song. Oh my gosh, what is it called right now? I can't remember. It's like a chicken song. It's like the no pants dance. Anyways, it's just, I'm not kidding. It's obnoxious and hilarious all at the same time. And he puts up, we want to do the no pants dance. And so Brad will put this on. And pretty soon all the girls don't have their pants on and they're dancing around the kitchen in their underwear, which is I'm totally fine with. And it's the funnest. It is the most fun thing ever. And then from there, it's like, then we'll get to put on like our music and Brad will put on some rock songs. And then, you know, but it really helps them, strangely enough, like wind down. And you would think, oh, you get them all hyped up, but you go from there and you say, okay, we've had our fun and now we're done. I think Daniel Tiger says that we've had our fun and now we're done. And then you go into your bedtime routine and it's brushing your teeth and you do the same thing. And what I think is interesting about that, as we're talking about this, is we have routines for our children, right? You need to brush your teeth. You need to go to the bathroom. You need to put your pajamas on. You need to wash your face. You need to crawl into bed. And in the mornings, I have the girls, you need to make your bed. You need to set your clothes out at night. But as parents, we're the first ones to not do that ourselves.
Right.
So how are you supposed to be teaching your children if you are not also role modeling those same actions? So kind of coming back full circle to that, when I give the girls their bath and they see me taking off my makeup, or they see me, you know, washing my face, or even wiping down the counters or whatever, if that's what sets us up for success the next day, they see me doing a nighttime routine. They see me taking care of myself. That's self-care. They see me taking care of myself. And so now, because I've expressed what self-care is for me, the kids know, my girls know, a bath is time for me. Or if I'm taking a shower, in the middle of the day. And, they'll be like, why are you putting your makeup on, Mom? And I'm like, I just want to reset. I just want to feel good. And now the girls do that themselves. If they're having a rough day, Mom, can I go just take a shower? Absolutely. Yes.
And I was just going to say, what a good, when they're in college, what a good reset. Because a lot of times when you're in college, if you've got early morning classes, you'll roll out and head out. And then when maybe take that break and then go study, and what a good reset. So
yes.
Yeah. You're real modeling something good for them. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect at it at all, but I am saying like, these are the types of things that we can be very intentional about. And I find a lot of success in when I do them and staying with that consistency. But I really believe, kind of going back to what we're talking about with our evening routines, I really believe getting something established at night, like we were talking about, really helps us set us up for success the next morning. And if you have goals and you have New Year's resolutions, I don't like resolutions, but if you have your New Year's goals, when are you going to accomplish them is my biggest question for people.
And I don't think it needs to be a resolution. I think it can be like just a habit. Like, okay, so on the calendar, you're going to shoot for doing something 30 days in a row. And so you can check the box, and do it. Then the other thing, that some things you were saying just there made me think, about the rest of my morning routine is, because when I get in from walking with the dogs, then I'll, depending on what kind of timeline I've got, I'll usually start the coffee then because it's fresh, go wash my face as the coffee's brewing. And then I curl up with a cup of coffee. And that's when I read. You mentioned the reading. That's when I read and get my mind kind of settled. And sometimes I'll do a little bit of journaling or gratitude work. That is a good kick off my day because I had some peace, even if it's 10 minutes. So like say, 10 minutes of walking, 10 minutes of coffee prep and washing my face, 10 minutes of reading and sipping on that coffee, which I adore. But the other thing is sometimes it's lemon with hot water, it doesn't have to be caffeine. So those are other pieces that make my life better.
Yes. I love that. So can you tell me again, what time do you start your morning routine? Like what time do you get up?
It depends on the time of the year. Like right now I'm a little bit later schedule. So I'm more like 6 o'clock. But I like to always, my ideal is to be 5:30 or 5, depending on, what the rest of my life looks like, but 5:30, so that by 6 o'clock, I'm part of I have a business coaching thing that some things start at 6 and some things start at 7 because they're on the Eastern time zone. So then I will adjust back from that.
Yeah. I'm the same. 5:30 is really like my sweet spot, 5:30 or 6, depending. And I am in agreement with you. These winter months, getting up at 5 is challenging. I mean, I'm just going to say
and part of it is I have to wear a headlamp when I'm walking. And so, sometimes I'll do part of that and stay inside and then not until it gets light, not head out until later on.
Yes. So I'm the same, about 5:30. And then I'm ready because the girls, they have their okay to wake clock and they can't get out of their bed until it turns green. And so
brilliant.
I have from 5:30 till 7, which is plenty of time, right? Even if I sleep until 6, that's an hour. That gives me a full hour to work on my physical movement. And that's when I do my yoga or a workout if I want to do that. Sometimes I'll mix it up and I'll do my mini bands or whatever. And, then I'm with you. Like, then I'll go drink my coffee when I'm done and I'll sit down like fully awake. And then I'm ready to read my book or journal or something like that. I'll say I love doing my gratitude journal as part of my evening routine.
Oh, nice.
So I'll do some of my writing in the morning, or note taking on whatever self-development book I'm reading in the morning to get my mind right. And then my gratitude journal is at night because that's my reset for the day, right? So you've had this whole day. It's my positive mindset shift at the end of the day for me to actually put something that I'm grateful for. 3 things is usually what I keep it to in my journal at the end of the day. So I can go to bed saying, okay, I understand that I feel like I had a really shit day today, but these were 3 things that I'm actually really grateful for, even if it's just like I have running water so that I could do the endless amount of dishes that I had.
Amen. Yes.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so my shift is a little bit different because I do the gratitude work and the journaling in the morning, just briefly. And then my gratitude work in the evening is prayers.
Yeah.
And so, and that's after I shut the light off. So yeah,
I love that.
Different things work for different people.
Yes. So in your line of business and working with all these amazing women and having these beautiful clients, so what do you think women struggle with the most with self-care? Like, what do you think is their biggest struggle?
It depends on where people are in their chapter of life. I think some women, if I had to say a theme, I would say many women don't prioritize their self-care and that taking the time for themselves. I would say that's probably a challenge. And I think that you have to do that in order for the rest of the world to show you grace.
Yes. I think we get so caught up in, so many women get so caught up in pouring out that they feel like it's selfish.
Doing. Yes. And so you have to fill your pitcher up so you can pour out of it. Yes. And whatever form that takes. I do know that I have many women from years ago that said, Tawnya, you're the one who taught me how to do skincare. I did not do it before you introduced me to the line that I used to rep. And that warms my heart and makes me feel great because they are the same ones that are saying, I'm so thankful for my great skin and that you got me onto this when you did. And so that to me, that's a gift to me that I was able to influence their life.
Yeah. And that's one of what you are so, yes, you are so good at that. It's not anything that you do. Even I don't think, I don't want to say intentionally because you're intentionally helping other women. That's one of the amazing things about you is you're always helping, but you've done all this self-care work. You've established all these routines and you hear women talk, women chat, and so you hear another woman's like struggling with something and you're like, well, here's a great tip that I've really learned. So even if you could do yoga for 5 minutes in the evenings and here's what cat looks like and here's what cow looks like. And this is what's going to be amazing for your back. I mean, you've come over to my house. Oh my gosh. You come over to my house and you've done like, little like foot treatment for me when after we had Lily, and you're just you were so outpouring into others. And so you'll teach people like, here's some acupuncture, or like the pressure points, not acupuncture.
Yes.
Yes.
This part of the hand. Yes.
Little things that you do. So when, it's working with you is more than just buying, beauty products. It's a full experience. And so I love that you're teaching people some of this advocacy for themselves in self-care. And this is what it looks like. And no, you do need to take the time to do this because it's more than just your skin, which is super important, but it's also about taking time for yourself and giving permission for them to do that. A lot of times we have to have permission from somebody to do that.
Right. And understand that I left college and went into a male-dominated business, working for Caterpillar, selling heavy equipment. And there are men out there that will denigrate a woman taking care of herself and being a little bit girly. And so that, I sort of was like, oh, skincare, not admitting that I was taking care of myself.
Mhm.
I always had the walking or the workout ethic, but some of the other self-care I was embarrassed about. And so that I had to kind of grow into realizing that that was important. And so there are husbands out there that sort of don't understand the importance of that.
Right.
And they need to be re-educated as well,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
it's important.
Yeah. And I want to go back a little bit because some of the things that we've talked about are these very basic things. And I really want to make sure that my listeners and moms out there understand that the self-care that we're talking about is very basic, but highly impactful self-care. You know, the point that I want to really make is that we don't have to go. Self-care doesn't always have to be a 2-hour massage if that's not available to you in your season of life. If you have the opportunity to do that, absolutely, that's self-care. Yes, total advocate for that. However, we don't always have the opportunity to do that. Maybe it's where you live. Maybe it's you don't have the help at the moment. Maybe you have small babies, maybe that's not available to you. So like what I really want women to understand in this is that carving out the time for these very intentional small acts are really impactful because it compounds on itself, right? So what we're talking about is little acts in the evening to set us up for success in the mornings, and then little actions in the mornings of very obtainable, doable things within your own environment all add up to this great big picture. If you think about it and you do that consistently every single day for 365 days, if you went outside and walked every single day for an entire year, or if you did yoga every single day for 15 minutes for a whole year, you're going to do more than just downward dog, which is nothing to be taken lightly. But maybe by then, by the end, day 365, you can do a complete headstand, 15 minutes. It all adds up. And I really get super passionate in that self-care has been kind of really blown out of proportion in these huge monumental things that you have to do, these huge monumental things, or you have to wear all this makeup, or you have to buy, all of these products.
I mean, you can see I have very little on.
Yes.
That's not, yeah. And there's another piece of it that, have you said everything you want to say about that?
Yes. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
You're okay. Good. There's another piece of it that I wish I had brought myself a tool that I did with Savannah. And we had this little turtle that was a back massager. Mm-hmm. And she would work on me and give me a back massage, either with the turtle or with her hands, as she got older. And now she gives an amazing back massage, but just using that little massage tool. And so she would say like, I want this. And so it became a point of like, well, how many minutes of back massage will you do for me to, or yes. She'd say, Mom, I want this, I'll massage your back. And, so it was like she was giving back and caring for me the way I was caring for her.
Yes.
And I think that that's important for kids to learn, that mama needs care too. And so that's just another piece of it that adds to, it doesn't have to be, a full on 2-hour thing. Like you said, it can be teaching your kids to help take care of you.
Yes. I have a very similar story I'll just share too, Olivia's our middle, and that, but I'm just, in case this is anybody's first time listening, I have a 7, 5, and 2-year-old, and Olivia is our middle daughter. And she has an amazing touch. I mean, she just has this energy in her touch, and she loves giving foot rubs. And so now she will go, it's like a full spa experience. And so she'll see, oftentimes, if I'm having a tough day, Mommy, it's okay. I think you need to sit down. I would love to give you a foot massage. And I am like, yes, let's do that. And it feels so good. And even if it's 10 minutes, even if it's 5 minutes, just her intentional act of love
that's beautiful.
So amazing for me. And it resets my day completely. It resets
that's lovely. That's lovely. By the way, I need to come over then and teach her how to do reflexology dessert, because my grandmother took me to a reflexology class to be certified when I was 16. And so that's why I did that after you had Lily, because, and I think, didn't I do like a little spa treatment for you?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was
Okay.
amazing.
So
Yes.
I will teach her because she'll be all over that.
Yeah, she loves that. And she'll, climb up on the couch and she'll just kind of like rub your shoulders and push on your shoulders. And it's amazing to let them have the opportunity to pour into you, and to tell them mommy's having a bad day, or I'm struggling or whatever. And to give them that opportunity, but they often see it without me actually
right.
And having to say it.
Right. And even more important is boy moms out there. Your future daughter-in-law will just worship the ground you walk on if you teach your boys to be caring like that as well.
Yes.
Because it's easier with girls, but yes.
But this started because I gave the kids a foot massage at home. I wanted to pour into them in a really intentional way versus just like getting them their cheese sticks and their snacks or whatever. I'm like, I want to set you up with like a spa afternoon. And I closed all the curtains and I put relaxing music on, and I, did warm washcloths on their eyes and essential oils and all of the beautiful things that we love, because they've never been to a spa. They've never had like a full pedicure, spa treatment. And I did it at home and they were like, oh, Ma, they just like melted. Like this is several years ago. And so now they just know, because I told them, I'm like, I think everybody's having a rough day, like, let me just do this for you. We're just going to do this.
Let's do a reset.
Yeah. And so now they've learned from that. But anyways, I know those are all side stories on self-care, but the whole point of that is like self-care, teaching our kids about it, allowing them to do it themselves, showing them what's important. And then it comes back full circle.
Right. And maybe giving some people some ideas to integrate into their own lives.
Yes. Yeah. And trust me, like I'm not going around every single month giving the girls a foot rub, but it is just something that I think about on, from time to time. Like how can I pour into them to show them that I love them? And then how can I pour into myself so that they see that I love myself too? Because I think that that's something, I mean, I'll be just really honest with that too. I didn't ever see my mom doing that. I never saw my own mom taking care of herself in that way and advocating for herself or taking walks by herself. And I would say that maybe her active self-care was planting her flowers. And that was something we always did together. And so now I do that myself and I absolutely love it. But there was a lot of ways that she could have, and I'm sure she would agree with this, done some other things for herself to really advocate for herself and take care of herself. So like we were saying with New Year's, it doesn't have to be a resolution. I don't like New Year's resolutions. You don't have to resolve to be different. You can just have some goals. And like you said, like maybe it's a 30-day checklist. Maybe it's something that you want to do, but I really want to create that space.
Right. And that's just to create a habit that, you'll feel better if you do it. That's why that's useful. Because it does, if you do something over and over again, it does become a habit, and healthy habits are great.
Yes. And I think we get a little caught up in having to have it be, I'm going to go back to that monumental, like this big monumental thing, but it can be, it can be a 1% change. There's like a 1% pivot and adjustment that you do in your life.
But then you're going up instead of down.
Yes. And that 1% adds up over time. Like I was saying, like that full 365 days. So 1% is huge if you stick with it. And sometimes because what you're wanting to do is instill healthy habits or positive habits or a habit in general, sometimes a small adjustment, a small change is more impactful than saying, I'm cutting out carbs for the entire year. In my other podcast, if anybody wants to go back and listen to it, Monday's episode was, do these things instead of resolutions. I give a lot of tips and tricks on other things you can do. And one of the things that I say is, please, for the love of God, do not make it about losing weight. Like, do not make your New Year's goal focused on weight loss. Like if you want to create a healthy habit, if you want to create a healthier lifestyle, dissect that a little bit more and figure out what it is you need to do. Maybe it's less alcohol. Maybe it's, not
More
eating
veggies.
after more veggies, not
One of
eating
the
after 8 o'clock, like little tiny
yeah.
things will add up, but don't make it about a weight loss. Like, please.
As a thing that I did with Savannah, and for those of you that don't know, she's 16. I don't know that we made that really clear when we were starting this.
Mhm.
Anyway, when she was little, she for some reason liked broccoli.
Mhm.
And so we started buying, the big broccoli bag of cut broccoli from Costco, and we just would try and get through it before it went bad, essentially. And so strangely enough, it was always about eating good food first. And so when she would ask for ice cream, she'd say, Mom, I ate all my good food first. Can I have ice cream? Great. Yes.
Mhm.
And so the funny thing is, now fast forward, I have a reputation among these 16 and 17-year-olds. They're like, oh, your mom's broccoli is the best. I am craving your mom's broccoli. Do you think she'll fix that for us? It's like, oh my goodness, that is teenagers. That's crazy, right?
Yes.
But
But I love that.
yeah,
That's so good.
yeah.
That's so good
So,
that she did that. And now as they've grown up and she's older, she knows, like, I need to eat my broccoli before I have my ice cream. I need to have something good
so
before I indulge
sometimes,
a little.
and my whole point there is
Mhm.
sometimes it's nice to say yes positively, I want to do that,
Mhm.
rather than, oh, I'm going to abstain from this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. I love this conversation. I know we went like a bunch of different directions, but I do want to see, is there anything that we didn't talk about? Because I know you had a couple of points that you really wanted to share.
I
And
hit all of them.
yes, awesome. Okay.
Yes. Exercise, circulation, water, self-care, do your skincare morning and night.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes. So Tawnya, thank you so much, by the way. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me on. This
And
was fun.
yes, you and I have talked about all of these things multiple times. It's one of my favorite things about you, and it's incredibly inspiring. And so I'm so glad you could come on and share all of this knowledge and share what you've learned and what you're pouring into others as well. I just think it's so valuable to have these conversations and simplifying the acts of self-care and simplifying some of these New Year's goals and these resets starting January 1. It doesn't have to be monumental, but the biggest point of all of this is carving out some time in your mornings to work on maybe some of those things, or give
So
yourself
that
some
you feel
space
good
for
about
self-care.
you.
Yes, exactly. And I in other podcast episodes I've had guests on, and we talk like self-care is selfless. Self-care is not selfish. Self-care is, whoops, I'm sorry, I hit my microphone. Self-care is selfless. And I think that is so important for us to just get ingrained in our minds and just really shift that mindset going into this new year and this next year. And maybe that's your word. In my episode on Monday, I talked about maybe you just have a word for the year. Maybe it's just an intentionality going into the year. One year I had a word that was balancing. It wasn't balance, it was balancing. And that was my entire intention behind the entire year. I didn't really change anything. It wasn't a season to make any like adjustments because I wasn't sure exactly where I needed to adjust, but I needed to know that everything was about balancing. It's like a constant act. And so maybe you just have to
process.
maybe you just have to find a word or phrase. And so maybe their word or your word for my listeners this year is self-care. Maybe it's self-care is selfless. Maybe it's something like that, where you just take the time throughout this next year, through 2022, and take some time to focus on yourself, little pockets of time. We don't always have, this is something I really want to say too. One more thing is that we don't always have pockets of time during the day. I think this is really, really important because self-care does take a little bit of time, even if it's 5 minutes, even if it's 10 minutes. And as busy moms and stay-at-home moms, we don't always have pockets of time during the day. I was talking to Brad about this actually too. And he's like, how do you have pockets of time during the day? I'm like, I usually don't. And that's why I do a morning routine. And that's why I try and do intentional things in the evening, because the kids aren't around. The kids are in bed or they're still sleeping or whatever. And that's when I fill my cup. So then I can then pour into them. We always, not always, but I think sometimes we think, oh, I'll do it during nap time, or I'll do it during this or whatever. But there's so many variables that can happen during the daytime hours that if you could get up a little bit earlier in the morning, that's why I'm such an advocate for a morning routine for the moms that are able to do that, because that is your pocket of self-care time. That is the pocket of time for you to pour into yourself through these little acts. So you gave us some great tips, Tawnya. Thank you so much. Where can people find you, or where can people buy your skincare products? Can you let us know?
So yes. So if you're on Facebook, Tawnya Feldman, my group is Tawnya Feldman / Beauty. So TAWNYA. So anyway, we'll have the links so you can find me, and I would love to help anybody at any level that they want help. And like, for example, it can be as simple as a mascara that doesn't bother your eyes and a remover that helps take it off. I know that's your favorite.
That's my favorite. Yes.
Yes. And so it can be very, very simple.
Yeah.
And I meet everybody at the level that they're at. So
yes. And you and I've talked, I've been wearing more makeup with the podcast, and, but usually I don't wear a lot of makeup, and I'll just add to that. The reason why you said that is because that's what I use. And I love the mascara. Love it. They're clean products, and the makeup remover is my favorite makeup remover I've ever used. So those products right there, I'm sold. I will not buy another mascara from the store. When I didn't have it a while back, I told you I needed, we were going to a service. And so I needed a funeral service, and I needed mascara, and I didn't have time to get a hold of you. And that was my fault. I was not being proactive. I left it till the last minute. Shame on me. But, I went and bought a mascara, and my eyes within 10 minutes they hurt. They were puffy, and it was awful. And so I messaged you, I think when I got home that day, I need more mascara. So anyways, I love the products that you have to offer, and I've been using them and absolutely love them. So thank you for that. Thank you for this amazing conversation. And I'll make sure all of your stuff is in the show notes, all your contact information.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Thanks so much, Tawnya. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
All right. Bye. Hey, sweet mama. Thank you so much for joining me today in my conversational journey with Tawnya. I've known Tawnya for a very long time, and I'm always inspired by her incredible self-awareness and ability to advocate for herself when she needs to dive into some self-care routines. And her consistency is very inspiring for me. What she learned when she first had her daughter, the things that she maybe made mistakes in and learned from later on. I love that she was able to share that with us today, and we can all grow from that. That's a big part of this community, is learning from each other, learning from others, and just giving people the opportunity to share what they learn, what works and what doesn't work for them. We can take what we want. We can leave what we want. My self-care routine is going to look different than Tawnya's. Tawnya's is going to look different from mine. And both of ours is probably going to look different from yours. The point is not for you to take every single one of the things that we've said and apply it to yourself. The point is for you to carve out the time for you to really do some self-reflective work and figure out what works for you. What works for you in your journey? Is it sleeping in your yoga pants? Maybe not. Maybe that is just way too much for you, but try it, or don't. Try something different. The point is find your intentionality behind it. And the biggest point that I have is the importance of your morning routine. Set some time aside in the evening to set yourself up for success in the morning, because your morning routine is probably going to be one of the only pockets of time you have for yourself that entire day. You need to take that time to pour into yourself before you can then go pour into your family. So if you have any questions about this, please don't hesitate to reach out. Find your intentionality, find your self-awareness in what works for you and your season and your own family and your own space. And I really, truly hope that this conversation empowers you to do some of that work and understand that as you go into the new year, one of the most important things that you can do is focus on a 1% change, a 1% improvement in your life that really will add up. And how do you do that? You carve out some time for it. Again, going back to that morning routine. So you set yourself up for success in the evening. So you have time in the morning to work on that 1%. So like I said, if you have any conversations, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can also contact Tawnya. I put all of her contact information in the show notes. She is incredible. She is a wealth of information when it comes to self-care, beauty routines, and things that, like she said, are very approachable and realistic. If you're a camping mom, she talks to you about like, it's okay if you go wash your face in the creek if you need to do that. So the point is you are, no matter where you are, no matter what place you are, position you are in your life at the moment, taking time for yourself is incredibly important. So have a beautiful New Year's, sweet mama. Take some time to think about these things and think about what you want to do within this next year and find some intentionality within that season, within that period of time. So thank you so much for joining me today. I look forward to talking to you all again very soon.